Hello and welcome back. My name is Tuxedo Ian, and we are back to playing Book of Hours. As we left off last time, we had just completed our very first day arriving at the Hush House, and we've opened up the entrance room here, as you can see. And we have a couple books that we've discovered in here in the Keeper's Lodge. So at the end of this day, we will be going on towards moving on to the next day. But I wanted to just basically touch a little bit about what the basic gameplay loop is going to look like from here on. So basically what we are going to be doing is we are going to be taking the books that we have found here, and we are going to be reading them either at a desk or with the consider verb here, and I'll show you what that looks like now. So we take this one, The Locksmith's Dream, Portions and Proportions, the second volume of Teresa Gaumer's examination of parallels in the mystic dreams of artisans. The front piece has been slashed with a razor. And we will put this into our consider verb here. And you will see it is looking for a total of 4 sky value. And we can do that by applying a piece of our soul, applying a skill, which we do not have yet, and applying a memory. Right now, none of our stuff is applicable to this, and we don't have any unfatigued soul elements, so unfortunately we cannot read anything for the rest of the day. But that is generally what the gameplay loop is going to be. We are going to be finding books, we are going to be reading them, we are going to be hiring the townsfolk and helping them out by giving them memories or various things we find around the house so that they can help us open up new areas of the Hush House so that we can find more books and learn more skills and so on and so forth, with the eventual goal being to fulfill the reason that we came here in the first place as the Simmergist. I eavesdropped on the songs of the Aviform hours. I'd heard the warnings. I'd lose my mind, my soul, my skin. All those things are true, but no one ever warns you what happens if you get away with it. Which is to say, after that, there just doesn't seem to be anything else worth hearing. So I guess as the Simmergist, our job here is to find and make something that is worth hearing even after hearing the gods talking. So we're going to go ahead and unpause the day and fast forward just a little bit so we can go ahead and get on to the next day. Now night has fallen. If we had been able to claim this bed here using a piece of our soul right here, we would be able to carry on one of our memories over to the next day, but since we do not have any soul that we can use to claim the bed, we're just going to lose all 4 of these memories. But that's not that big a deal because memories come and go fairly often. Memories fade, assistance departs, but the soul is refreshed. So we have 2 pieces of core, 1 health, 1 tryst, and 1 whist to use to read stuff or to do stuff in town. Every day as the game gets onto a new day, we will draw a weather regarding the current season. So today the weather is clouds. In this country, the sky is rarely clear. The sun goes courteously cloaked, which has elements of moon and moth. So if we had something that we needed maybe 1 more point of moon or 1 more point of moth to be able to read, we could use that as a memory to help us get through. But for right now, the only things we have are heart and sky, neither of which the clouds are going to help us with. We do have an uncatalogued book here, so let's go ahead and try and catalog it for now using one of our pieces of core. This book was probably written around the time of Hush House's baronial period, roughly 1500s to the 1700s. If I examine it, I can learn more about what knowledge it might contain. Books from this period are only rarely contaminated. So we'll go ahead and get that started. The other thing we can look at is we have 2 new rooms that we can try and open up. The first is the cloistered garden. I can make out a green and shaded space, but it's choked with weeds and thorns. I'll need help to clear the space, which we will need either 2 lantern or 2 nectar in order to clear. Or we could go upstairs to the gatehouse stairs The stairs to the room above are blocked with debris, and the plaster is peeling from the walls. I'll need help from the village to clear and restore the place, which would need either 2 forge or 2 lantern. So, we know that Denzel can give us some forge, and he's available. Reverend Timothy, however, is not available just yet. But we could use one of the kills to introduce us to Reverend Timothy by using a little bit of chicanery, but right now we don't have any memories that we could use to help with that. So, let's see what we can do here. We do have a little bit of money right now. Not a whole lot, but it will last us for a while. So, I think what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get Mrs. Kill to help us. Mrs. Kill's mood always improves when I drop by. If you don't choose a topic, Mrs. Kill will offer help as a friend. Miss Kill stands ready to help. You always cheer me up, she says morosely. And thankfully, since we have both Core and Whist, we have the ability to call out either one of them for help. But for right now, we're just going to use the midwife's assistance. As somber as autumn, as kind as autumn. She also likes her beer. But what we're going to do, we're going to talk to her for now and see what because she can give us a couple memories and maybe help us out. Mrs. Kill has seen more of the world than she usually lets on. Conversations with her yield the occasional surprise. Add something to enhance Mrs. Kill's effectiveness for the day, or just talk. Unlike some assistants, Mrs. Kill can make use of fabric. So we're going to talk to her, and that will take us 30 seconds while our book is processing, and we will find out what it is. Now I have an idea of the book's nature and its contents. Opus Magnum Caerulum. Ambrose Westcott tried to render the title of this venerable and anonymous work mockingly as The Big Blue Business. A kinder translation would be The Great Work in Azure. Well, this one we're certainly not going to be reading for quite a while because it has a mystery level of 14 and we only have 1 lantern from our whist. So we're definitely going to be putting that one on the back burner for now, but we'll eventually get to it. One of the other things is that each book will tell you a little bit about what it's going to teach you. So the Locksmith's Dream will teach us about lockworks and clockworks, the little ways of little machines. The Flayed Tantra scroll that we found will teach us about the Magaphine mysteries. The greater plagues may not be cured, only bound. The very greatest of all may only be entreated, and it is death to do so improperly. And the new book that we have found will teach us a little bit about pyroglyphics, one script that all the world must read, even the blind, and it is written in flames. Matters of fireworks and their kin, lights, colors, infernal detonations. We also have the 2 books of Traveling at Night. The first one will teach us about Edicts Liminal, the precepts of limitation and division, established by the enigmatic conclave of the hours, sometimes called the Chancel. And Volume 2 will teach us about sights and sensations. To mix the rarest colors, a merciless detachment is required. Well, not much we can do with any of these for right now, but we do have Mrs. Kill, who's going to tell us a few things. Plus, we also have Whist, Tryst, and Health, which might be able to be used for something. So, one thing we have not done, although we've kind of peeked in our journal to find out whether it was ours or not, we haven't actually gotten through and read the mysteries in it. So that's what we're going to do right now, because that requires our Whist. We'll just toss that in here, and I can master this mystery, because we only have a mystery level of 1 winter, and our Whist gives us 2 winter. So we'll go ahead and start that. And reading a book will always take 2 minutes, 1 for a first rotation, after which if you have not satisfied the conditions, you can sometimes add more stuff, but if you've already satisfied it, it will just take a full 2 minutes to complete the task. So we'll let that run while we talk to Mrs. Kill and find out what she has to say to us. There 'tis, and can be no tizzer. Mrs. Kill, as every local gossip knows, came from France to marry Mr. Kill, but there's scant trace of the continent in her accent now. She has given us a piece of memory regret. And, as I noted in the descriptions for the videos, I am using a small mod that has been added to this game. And what it is whenever you take some actions that are very useful for you for various things, if you do not have a piece of the soul that corresponds with that action based on your choices at the beginning, you will be able to recover one of your pieces of soul. So by talking with an assistant, I have unlocked the ability to get a piece of shapt. My shapt? Shapt is eloquence and also understanding. The door opens both ways. So once I've finished reading the book, I can consider this and I will get a piece of shapt for my soul card collection. Well, so the memory regret has forge and winter on it, which doesn't really help us out all that much, so we'll just go ahead and talk to her again and see what else she has to tell us. And we can continue to do that for as long as we want until we decide to either use her to open one of these areas or we let her go home at the end of the day. Now, if we can get something that gives us either 2 lantern or 2 forge, we will be able to use her to unlock one of these rooms. So let's hope for that. Hindsight. Some things we can only really understand when they're gone. Well, again, doesn't really help us all that much, but we still have time in the day, so we can continue to talk to her and see what she can tell us. Worst case comes to worst, we do have this bottle of dandelion wine over here, which would give her 1 lantern and 2 nectar, so we could use her to open up the garden here, worst comes to worst. So that would at least give us 1 more room open. And that was the first tick around the clock for our journal, so we will continue to read the mysteries in there and see what it has to tell us. Solace, peace after trouble. Well, again, we have a heart book, but we need to get an 8 heart, and I don't think we will be able to do that with just the one point that she just gave us. So we will continue to talk to her and see what else we can learn. While we're doing that, we will also come over here, and we have some plates and glasses we can use so that we do not have to give her the whole bottle of wine if we decide to use that to open up the garden. We can instead collect just a single glass of it and leave the remainder in the bottle for later. Each bottle will give us 3 servings of whatever's inside of it. Stolen secret, something I overheard in dreams, 2 moon and 1 knock. Well, a little bit of a rare surprise from her, but nothing that really is immediately helpful. While we're doing that, we might as well claim this bed using our health for today. That way we can at least carry one of these memories over into the next day. And we can carry anything that has scale, forge, knock, or heart on it through the night into the next day. Winter, a conclusion. I have mastered this and gathered the lessons it contained. So now we know a little bit of a few things from reading our journal. We've learned lessons on rhyme and remembrance, and sky stories. So we'll go ahead and grab those. And these will give us our first 2 skills. So the first thing we'll do is we will learn the lessons for Sky Stories. And you'll notice that for Rhyme and Remembrance, we get 3 lessons out of it. That will allow us to level Rhyme and Remembrance up to level 3 if we can feed it the proper memories, which, thankfully, because it is Moon and Winter, we have Hindsight and the Clouds and Regret from Mrs. Kill, so we will have enough memories to level it up to level 3 and give us a bit of a head start on things. We will continue. So, Mrs. Kill has served her purpose for now, so we will go ahead and give her some dandelion wine. A nice drop. I can offer my assistants something to drink. This will increase their aspects. They'll also be glad of the refreshment. And then once she's done with that, we can use her to unlock this cloistered garden. Because it is getting late in the day, and we don't want to accidentally overstay our welcome with her. Another leaf on the Tree of Wisdoms. We've learned Sky Stories, which gives us 2 sky and 1 rose. Rose, the rose which encompasseth all, 9 directions to new horizons, exploration, enlightenment, hope. And sky, wind, storm, echo, song, the intricacies of mathematics and the principles of flight. Law's touch is lighter than we sometimes think. Matters of balance, harmony, and necessity. Now, other thing we can do with these lessons is once we have learned a skill, we can come here to the Tree of Knowledge, and we can assign that skill to one of the 9 branches. Now you'll see this skill can be assigned to either Birdsong or to Horomakastry. Each one will give us a different piece of soul as a reward. So just to show how this works, I'll explain. So if we were to put it into Birdsong, we get this little blurb. A thief of sights, a scavenger of thrones, a border reaver and a thief of knots, a thief of colors and a thief of bones. This is Birdsong. Would also give us a piece of tryst. However, if we decided to put it into Horomakastry instead, Horomakastry being the bright art dealing with the laws and contentions of the secret gods called Hours and of their name emanations, where Birdsong is music, riddles, and miscellanea, if the gods gossiped. By putting it into Horomakastry, we would instead get a piece of Fet, that part of us which walks in dreams, one of the 9 parts of the human soul. The tryst, the pilgrim's intrigue and the Gariel's scheme, the sun and shadow and the forge unseen, the swan king and the Elga Bali. This is Horomakastry. But for right now, we don't really have a pressing need for either one of those, because neither one would be all that useful in and of itself, so we will hold that for now. And instead, we will go ahead and learn Rhyme and Remembrance. Now, one thing we will need is for level 2 of Rhyme and Remembrance and level 3, we will each need to supply a soul fragment. It will need to be either Moon or Winter. Well, we have Moon from Tryst, but our Winter is exhausted. So what we can do is we will go over here to the Sweet Bones, and we can put our exhausted soul into there. 2pence will buy me a hearty meal in a quiet place where I can rest and gather my thoughts. So we will throw a 3pence in there. It is spring, and the landlady has served me a slice of her starry-gazy pie with the pilchard heads poking cheekily through the hot crust. For those of you who don't know, pilchards are basically large sardines. They are a staple of the northern coast of the Britain, and starry-gazy pie is made by cooking them with the heads poking out through the top of the crust. I'm guessing it's just as delicious as it sounds, but apparently it's a local cuisine there, so, apparently our librarian likes it. We'll let that twist just rest while we are leveling and gaining our Rhyme and Remembrance. And Mrs. Kill is just about done drinking her wine. Down to the Grutians. This has boosted their aspects appropriately. So she now has 2 nectar and 1 lantern. We could give her something that would give her another lantern, but we don't really have anything that would help her right now. So what we are going to do is we are going to use her to unlock the cloistered garden. I can make out a green and shaded space, but it's choked with weeds and thorns. I'll need help to clear the space. So we'll go ahead and get her working on that, and that will take us a full minute, which will take us close to midnight for the day. Rhyme and Remembrance, another leaf on the Tree of Wisdoms. Rhyme and Remembrance has moon. Secrets are soft. Night is softer still. The sea speaks. It is not always wise to listen. The nocturnal and the forgotten. And winter. Winter is the principle of silence, of endings, and of those things that are not quite dead. This skill can be assigned to either birdsong, music, riddles, miscellany, less a wisdom, more a body of gossip hollowed by accretion, a sniffy scholar once remarked, or we could assign it to scholasticity, the study of things that should not be studied. Some call this a wisdom. And just to see what we could get out of it if we did that, if we assigned it to birdsong, we would get a piece of tryst. If we assigned it to scholasticity, we would get a piece of Arab. Neither one of those, again, is something that we really need all that much at this point, because we are going to get a piece of Arab out of our wanderings and experimenting around with various actions we take. But what we can do is we can now take this Rhyme and Remembrance, and this is how you level up a skill and make it more useful. So it starts with 1 moon and 2 winter. But you can take any lesson that matches either of the aspects of it. Right now we only have more Rhyme and Remembrance lessons. And we can slot that in here to where it says lesson. We add a piece of our soul for effort. And then we add a memory of something that matches either of the powers that our skill has. And if we click this here, we can see there are several things that actually fit into that slot. So we will use a stolen secret. There's always more to learn. Improve this skill to level 2. This will increase its aspects, which will help with crafting and make it suitable for higher branches in the Tree of Wisdoms if you haven't already committed it. So this will take us 30 seconds and we'll expand our Rhyme and Remembrance to level 2. At level 2, we can do the same thing again using our Whist that is currently resting, but we will have to supply 2 memories this time, which luckily we have. We have the Hindsight and the Regret, or we could use the Clouds if we wanted, because that all fits. We have made camp in the bed here in our lodge. This is a safe place for me now, to the extent that dreams are safe. We are moving on towards dusk here. The day is almost over. 1 day lasts for 6 minutes of real time here. So it may not seem like a lot, but it takes time. But it does take time, and you will get used to the flow and rhythm of things as things go. So our Whist has been refreshed. It is better now, and we get a penny back in change. So we have a 2p now, and our Rhyme and Remembrance is now level 2. As you can see, it now has 2 moon and 3 winter, so that will make it easier to read stuff that uses winter or moon, or to craft with it later, which we will get into when we get into crafting and find some workbenches. So we can do that one more time by putting in another lesson, by putting in the Regret and the Hindsight, because they both share the winter aspect, and we can use our now recharged Whist to bring this up to level 3. I'm no expert, but I'm no dabbler either. That will take us another 30 seconds to consider that skill and make it back to level 3. And we're just about done here in the clearing out the garden. St. Brandon's Cloister. The sisters and brothers of the Abbey built these gardens in the 13th century, at the height of the period we now call Solar Gothic. Walk here a while and breathe the peace they left. Not a whole lot here, but if you'll notice, there are two highlightable areas on either end of the garden. So let's click one and see what it does. It's a garden. So in summer, we would be able to harvest sea holly. In winter, we would be able to harvest blue crown. We would need to supply effort, a piece of the soul that has heart, but is not fatigued or maladied. And we would also need to provide knowledge, a skill that has nectar to it. Right now, we don't have either of those available, so unfortunately, and it is not summer or winter, so we cannot claim anything from these gardens. You'll also notice, though, that we did open up 3 new rooms that we can possibly unlock. We added the walled garden. Iron spikes march along the top of the wall. The gate is rusted shut, but what I can see through the bars is as ruinous as I might expect. We would need either 4 edge or 4 nectar to clear that gate and get us access to the garden. Or we could go to the first true threshold. I've reached the threshold of the house proper. The librarians of the Curia were scholars of note. Some were potent adepts. From here I should proceed carefully, observing the proper forms, making the appropriate offerings. The villagers and other locals know the ways of the earth and sea thereabouts. Their assistance will be invaluable, so I will need somebody who knows Knock 3 or Rose 3. Well, right now, none of our people know either Knock or Rose as a basic skill, so we'll have to come back to that later. The third room that is opened is the Long Tower, the first floor. The Long Tower looks like it's been abandoned much longer than 7 years. In the nocturnal period, the inhabitants probably spent most of their time on the seaward side of the isle. I'll need help to restore the room above, and for that we will need either 3 winter or 3 lantern. Whoa, Mr. Kill happens to have winter, but he only gets 2 points of it, so we'll have to figure out a way to get him a 3rd point later, or we'll have to find someone who knows lantern and get them to 3 points. For now, though, let's finish up learning our last skill here. This skill is now level 3. Its power aspects have also increased. So it is now Moon 3 and Winter 4, so that will help us out quite a lot when we try and read a book that has either of those abilities. Which, unfortunately, right now, doesn't really match anything we've got. Because we need Sky, Knock, Lantern, Sky, or Heart. Maybe tomorrow we'll go and try and get the gatehouse stairs cleared out, because we can get somebody, I think, to Lantern 2 easily enough. Also, now that our Consider verb is free, we can throw in this My Shapt card and regain a piece of our soul and get a Shapt ability card. And with that, we have recovered our piece of Shapt. Shapt gives 1 Forge and 2 Knock. Forge, fire, I once read, is the winter that warms and the spring that consumes. The principle of the forge transforms and destroys. Or, it also gives Knock. The principle called Knock permits no seal and no isolation. It throws us gleefully out of the safety of ignorance. Knock opens doors and unseams barriers. So we now have 1 additional piece of our soul to work with every day. So we have a piece of Shapt. Again, nothing that really is going to help us out all that much at this moment, though we might be able to read Traveling at Night Volume 1 fairly soon, with the 2 Knock that it gives. And now, since night has fallen, we will be able to carry one of our memories through the night. So we can throw our memory solace that we got into our bed, and we can dream on that memory to carry it through. Now that night has fallen, I can rest and perhaps dream on the day's doings. Dreaming on a memory will preserve it past dawn, allowing you to keep it until the following day. So we will go ahead and start that. and it will automatically complete once the day has rolled over to the next morning. And that is a fairly good adaptation and demonstration of what our basic gameplay loop is going to be. We will either be searching for and reading new books, or we will be trying to gather assistance and open up new areas of the house. And just as the day now breaks into the next morning, we will call this a night and come back again the next day. So, thank you for joining me. Again, I hope you've enjoyed this little expedition into the wilderness of Hush House, and I will see you next time.